Just hit record and you're thanking me. Tell me more. Tell me more.
So thank you so much for doing this, like for agreeing to do this with me, because like right now, where I'm sitting is like before we started doing it, I didn't have content consistently coming out. Now that we're doing this, I have 10 weeks of content ready to come out that isn't even published yet. Right? Like I am so far ahead. What's nice is that you and I are about to talk about something somewhat unrelated to creating content right now. I don't know if you feel this way, but I feel this way where it's like, I know that we have the habit of creating this content. I know that I'm already ahead. So like I have zero stress right now
Yeah,
when it
completely
comes to creating
pressure free.
content.
Zero pressure.
And so like we have this time like locked down together, and we'll continue to have this time locked down together as long as it makes sense for both of us. And so like what's cool is that in this time, it's almost like you or I have the freedom to use it the way that we need to, knowing that it's geared toward creating content, and that 9 times out of 10 that's going to be what we do with it. But it's nice that like we have the freedom where it's like if you need my eyes on something right now, we have the freedom to do that instead.
Right.
And potentially not even have it turn into content. But yeah, because like again, you're probably in a similar boat. You might actually be a little bit even further ahead on how much content you have ready to come out compared to what's being published. But anyway, so you're probably in a similar boat where it's like you're not hurting for having more content, and it's literally like since we started doing this before, I was hurting for having content to put out. Really ahead on content, and I know how important it is to just have content coming out to stay top of mind and be creating opportunities for conversations. And so
Yeah,
yeah, it
like
feels really good to
I feel that kind of like before I read Alex Hormozy, you need to create content. I see this other thing, you got to create content. And every time I
right.
just cringed because I know I need to do this. I know I need to eat my vegetables too.
Right,
Like it was painful anytime. And
right.
now I'm just like, yeah, that's what I'm doing. I got it on the schedule.
Yep. And it's like there's always more we could do. There's always more we could do to leverage it. It's like it's a system that could improve. It's not perfect by any means, but it's not the original meaning of it from the book, but literally that going from 0 to 1, of going from nothing to actually doing something, like sometimes that feels like the hardest work. Yeah, doing it this way of showing up together. We've got a time on our schedule. We know it's going to happen. We show up consistently every
Yeah.
week. If for whatever reason one or the other of us isn't able to show up, both you and I have done this where we make it possible, make it likely, either by rescheduling to a different day if we have to. In my case, there was a day that I couldn't show up, so I brought in a sub for you to do
Right.
content with you that wasn't me.
Yeah.
But it's worked out really well, and it's been a blessing to be able to have this time to do this, and having it set up like where it's advantageous for both of us, I think is the biggest thing that makes a difference there.
Yeah.
You
It's
know,
a win-win.
we come on. Exactly. We come on, I help be a co-host for your show, and we focus on the topics that make sense for your audience. But it still makes sense for me, branding wise, to be seen in that light. And similarly, you come on and you be a co-host on my show, and make sure that I have a person to talk through these concepts that I need to talk through. And like we, our audiences are similar enough that it makes sense for both of us. So yeah,
Yeah. It's so perfectly
it's good stuff.
symbiotic because I serve lenders, you serve realtors, but we both talk the same language. And so I can add perspective and you can add perspective. And so people are going to watch this and they're not going to believe that this wasn't scripted. Like this literally wasn't scripted. You started thanking me for this. And I said, hold on, I got to hit record because I'm about to show you what I've been doing with the realtor waiting list and getting your feedback. And like it is actually about, basically how Paul's realtors say thank you every time they meet. And they reach out to him like the Monday before and say, hey, we're still meeting this week. But it's because of this. We all know we need content. It's either $2,500 a month or $1,500 a month. You're talking solo to a camera or you just don't do it. Whereas this makes it fun.
Yeah, like literally, I was saying this anyway, and then you hit record, like you said. But for anybody listening to this right now, just imagine what it would feel like if creating content consistently in the best ways possible no longer felt hard, and it felt easy, and it felt fun, and it felt like something that you wanted to do, that it was easy to show up for, that it was easy to get the result. That's what's happening here. It's a system where doing the thing that you likely know you need to be doing anyway, getting content out there, putting messaging out into the market to gain awareness, you need to be doing that anyway. This isn't like you hopefully don't need to be convinced by now that it's important to like get
have content
marketing out into the market,
advertise.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so it's not a matter of knowing that it's important. It really, the hard part has always been that it's hard, that it has felt hard. So just imagine what it would feel like if it was easy. If you're at the other end of it, where the problem is solved, it is now easy, and it just feels like part of what you do. It's the same as any other part of just showing up and doing the work in a way that feels like it makes sense, it fits, it flows right. It's not that it doesn't take any work, but the way that it feels changes from having to push yourself to do it to it being fairly natural. You just fall into the flow, and it just happens, and you get those good results from it.
Yeah, it's our Monday at 1. I look forward to it. This is enjoyable.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
So I'm going to share my screen with you here. This is about kind of, let's see if I can find this. Ooh. Using a little note taker you shared with me, Obsidian, to see if this shows
nice.
Up. Do you see it?
I do.
Awesome. So this is how I've been walking, updated way to walk lenders through kind of what me and you are doing, but how they can do it with realtors. And
right,
it is, I'm going to move my other screen so that I can still see your shining face. And what I realized is this really is a way. This is how you can send 6 referrals a year to all your top 20 realtors. Like, what would that do for you?
Right.
And this is the exact system that Paul used to get a waiting list of realtors wanting to work with him and send him referrals without chasing, groveling. And I love this. This is all his. I've been in the business 30 years. I'm not chasing. I'm not groveling, not paying for lead splits, MSAs, buying lunches or coffees. And he said, or dropping a single piece of swag. And when I do that, what I tell the folks is first, I'm going to share with you kind of what's currently happening as I see it in the real estate world, get their feedback, find out what they would like to create, kind of look at the math of that. And then if they're interested, they give me permission, share with them the realtor waiting list program, and then get their feedback. And so what I've started with is the 3 secrets that Paul discovered to get a realtor waiting list. And the first secret is realtors only want one thing. And if you give them that, they are loyal. I need to find some clip of someone saying, you only want one thing. But that's true. The myth is that in this market, realtors won't speak to me, or even if they send someone to me, they're going to rate shop me because they think the best thing they can do for their client is get the lowest rate. And it's true. Realtors do hate hearing from most lenders every week saying, hey, did you meet anybody at the open house I can help? You need any gift cards for the open house? Yeah, because everybody's calling that. But the truth is, if you can give a realtor that one thing, they'll love you and be loyal. And that one thing, and what's cool, they don't even know. Like they've never really realized what they want is they want a compliant client that easily close. It's really the same thing that lenders want. And who that is, someone that knows who you are, what you do, and they're going to hire you 99% of the time, no matter what you charge. And I'm talking about rate shopping, or even as a realtor, someone hammering me on my commission. One of my teammates, he said, those folks, they don't have commission problems. They've got compliant client problems. And, I love that. And the reason it works is I love this. This is the Alex Hormozi value equation. Here's why a realtor will work. If you give them the one thing, it's value is what's their dream outcome times perceived likelihood of achievement divided by the time, delay, and effort and sacrifice. So, what is the dream outcome? Someone
Right.
saying, Charlie, I've got a house to sell in 30 days, and will you do it for me? And I just had one of these, and we closed it in less than 30 days.
Right.
I got a 7% commission, no buyer co op. I love this client. I've helped them and their family multiple times, and that's the dream outcome. I knew it was going to happen.
Right.
Not much time, delay, effort, and sacrifice. I like to say it's kind of this, the lead efficiency index. Can you give a realtor people that are high on this? This is simple. On a scale of 1 to 10, how likely is this person to close? On a scale of 1 to 10, how well will they follow direction? And on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do I enjoy working with them? Because the truth is, every realtor, if they've got people 27 to 30, they're a 9 or a 10 on all these. It's a career you never want to quit.
Right.
And so that's really the secret. Like, how can you get compliant clients? And Paul actually,
I think,
I'll go ahead.
I think in this, like, especially looking at Hormozi's value equation there, one of the other things that he talks about, I believe he talks about in that book, which I believe that one comes from $100 million offers. One of the things that he talks about in there is how, like, where all things being equal, people always end up going to price if everything else appears the same. The only other thing that they go to look at is the price. And so part of what you can tell is that if you are being price shopped, you are offering the same thing as everybody else. And that's what's happening, is that they don't know how to differentiate you from somebody else, because what you're offering is the same thing that everybody else is. And you may have a lot more to offer. You may have a lot more value to bring to the table, but something about the way that offer is being presented appears like it's the same as everybody else. So what I love about this is the quickest way to fix that problem is to figure out how can you offer the person that you're trying to reach the value that actually matters to them. That's what matters. It's like, what do they want? And how do you do that in a way that nobody else is doing, nobody else can do? And that's ultimately where you move out of the zone of being price shopped and move into the zone of they want to work with you because you offer a unique value that isn't offered by somebody else. And it makes a massive difference for doing the same for them, offering them compliant clients. It's not something that most anything offers. And being able to do that is part of what gives you that unique value as well. I love that.
Yeah. Everyone wants a monopoly. Profitability is in monopoly when you can't compare apples and oranges. And the other thing that Alex mentioned is, in the beginning of his business, he was focusing mainly on the top, dream outcome and perceived likelihood of achievement. But what he's found, the massive value, the infinite value, is reducing time, delay, and effort and sacrifice. Because the truth is that, like, I can generate you leads all the time. If it takes 2 years, if I've got to talk to 200 people over 2 years to close 3 of them, that's not going to be very helpful. My kids just came in the room. Can you hear them?
Yeah.
Hold on a second. They've got this thing where when they all do their chores, they get screen time. And the one was trying to, the last holdout to get him to do it. And it's funny. It's close to 3:00. If he doesn't get it done by 3, the other kids can do it for him, and he just lost out.
Ooh,
you better get going.
You got to set up those. You set up those incentives to bring everybody in alignment.
Exactly. And the effort and sacrifice is like really the massive value, because the truth is, if I can handle 40 of these guys a year that are high up, like, they're going to listen to me. And Paul actually did a little video on compliant clients, and I'm going to share this with them. I don't know if you're going to be able to hear this. Can I hit play and see if you hear it?
Yep.
Do you hear that?
I do not hear it.
Let's see if I can find out how, and if not, that will just be okay.
I know typically if you can open it as a tab in your browser and then share that tab, you're often able to share audio through the tab rather than through that.
Gotcha. Let's see, media. Can I do that? Let's see if you hear it now. Do you hear that?
I do not.
Well, Paul is talking about what it's been like for him to get compliant clients. And he's been in the business for 30 years. And how, like, the first time ever, he's got people even from 10 years ago, 20 years ago, he hasn't talked to, that reach out to him.
Right.
And they're like, hey, do you have any time to help me? He's like, of course I do. And this was a little 1-minute video that we did. So the first secret, realtors will speak to you. They won't rate shop you. They will be loyal if you can get them the one thing that they want that they don't even know they want. And then myth 2 is, realtors won't send me any deals. And the secret is, if you give realtors compliant clients, the smart ones are going to reciprocate. This is part of Cialdini. Normal humans reciprocate. Like, it's just what we do, right? And there's always sociopaths out there, but you don't want them to be partners anyway. And
can I tell you a story about this too?
Yes. So
I got my start working as a marketing director for a real estate team, and an amazing agent on that team is who helped get me into my first house, and I loved working with her. She's awesome. I'd still recommend her today. But when it came time to sell my house in order to move into the RV, at that point, I had a client that I had been working with that was also in that same market that was responsible for over 6 figures of revenue to my business. They were my biggest client that I have had. You want to guess who I ended up using to sell my house when it came time to sell my house?
I would say as much as you loved her, you're not going to be a dummy and not do the other.
Exactly. And so I worked with the client, the agent they're a great agent too, right? Like I got great results with them. And I think it was nothing even remotely at all a problem with the agent who I bought my house through. All things being equal, I would have worked with them again. But the only reason why I didn't is because I had a client who gave me a ton of business. So yeah, of course, like, I'm going to reciprocate that and say, man, thank you for standing by me, for getting me business and working with me for the past few years. I need to sell my house. You're definitely who I want to work with, right? Yeah, I think it's only natural that when somebody gives or sends you business that you want to reciprocate that, for sure.
Yeah, not only is it nice, but it's also smart business, right?
Right. And exactly.
And so that's really how Paul stole me. And when I got into business, I had a lender that I was in a BNI group with, and I sent him pretty much all my deals. He got them all. I love lenders want realtors like me that believe in the power of partnership. And but I met Paul at a mastermind, and we started talking. And he didn't even give me a ton of testimonial or referrals, but he gave me a few.
Right.
And so since 2017, so like 6 years, this is all these yellow out of all my buyer sides. All the yellow are what we've done with Paul. Like, one of them, it was a new construction that I couldn't get to him. Like, I can't give them all, but actually I was looking through the notes to like calculate the money, and he did actually get one more actually of this. So all these yellow, and so that's 16.4 million. And that ended up being for him, because he said to make 1% for his GCI as a lender. Right. The deals we've done together is $161,463 with me, which equals $27,000 a year. That's not bad. And like, I'm grateful for it. I've got to have a lender. And it's actually probably closer to 30, because if you look down here, I put my buyer sides. We're towards the end of 2023, and I've done one buyer side because I've been focusing on this all year. Really, 30 grand. And this is what he sent me. He referred 8 people that became 10 transactions. It was $99,401 towards me. He also got really good at converting our current clients into referrals. So there's a number of current clients that I would not have gotten that I didn't figure into this because of him. And what's cool, this number, $27,000 a year, I if you see, I don't even do that many buyer sides down here. 7,
Right.
8, 8, 10, 16, 10. That's not a huge volume.
Right.
And but what that means to me is there's a lot of realtors that you can have this type of partnership with,
Right.
especially if
Right.
you can give them. He was giving me 2 a year. If you can give them 6 a year,
Right.
like they'd be a total dummy to leave. And this is a video where Paul's talked about just the leverage that this opportunity has given him. A little 30-second clip. Any kind of thoughts on that?
It it all makes sense. Around I think the first myth about like you basically can't find loyalty from realtors. The real reality is that you can. You just have to know how you get that from them. And most lenders trying to get loyalty by offering the same thing that a realtor could get anywhere else.
Right. I'll split your leads with you.
Right?
I'll close on time.
Yeah, like it's the same offer that they can get literally from every other lender that they come in contact with. So there's nothing to set you apart. And then in terms of realtors sending you deals, I mean, again, there's not been a solid reason to, right? Like I see if you have a solid MSA or something like that, that can be a reason for
Right.
realtors to send you deals, right? I've seen that work.
Yeah.
But again, you have, like that is leading it's a similar offer. It's leading from, I'm going to help your business directly. And then from there, you're creating the reciprocation. The difference is that requires cash outlay up front, whereas something where you're sending them deals doesn't require cash outlay up front in order to get that reciprocal relationship happening. So I love the concept.
Plus, when you're buying leads, you're not getting compliant clients. When you're buying leads, you're getting people that at the beginning are 3 to 4 on this. And
right.
There are some realtors that are really great at converting those. Most aren't.
Right.
And even the ones that are,
right,
they usually don't like it. They're like, my goal is to convert them into a 29-30 on this as soon as possible. So
right.
yeah, that does work with leads. Not as many people like it.
Right.
And then let's see, that was 1. That was 2. 3. The third myth, as you can see, I was actually putting this together today, is realtors don't have any deals to send me, right? Especially in this market, high interest, low inventory. And the secret is the best realtors are trusted by the people they know. And this is amazing, even if the realtor is brand new in the business. And so the magic is, where are the high lead efficiency index? Where are the high LEI clients? Larry Kendall with Ninja Selling, right. One of my favorite books. A lot of my business is based off of it. He said there's 15 transactions every year for every 100 households in a realtor's database. Joe Stump and Dean Jackson, they've been doing this for 30 years. They're looking for a 20% annual yield on their database. Out of 100 people, right. They're looking for 200 transactions. Now that's working it hard, but there's 10 to 20 transactions in every 100 households. Right. Of course, we know realtors don't have a database, but like the deals are there. And then now,
yeah, let's unpack that real quick, because here's the reality, right? Like, what are the biggest reasons why people ultimately have a change in their housing needs, right? And thus either sell or buy, right? And typically sell to buy, or do their first purchase. Some of those basic needs, or those basic situations. They have kids.
Yeah.
They get married. They get divorced. Yeah. They have kids leaving their household.
Yeah.
They have parents changing in age, and either losing their parents or needing extra help or whatever, and thus you have a change in house situation then. And it looks like you got some more on there, but the reality is, all of those things happen regardless of what's going on with interest rates. None of those things stop happening because of what the Fed is doing or what the unemployment rate looks like. All of those things keep happening. And there's Maslow's hierarchy of needs, or even basic survival. Have you heard the rule of threes when it comes to survival? Is this something that we've talked about?
I don't think so.
Okay. When it comes to survival, this is a useful secondary survival hack anyway. So the rule of threes is this. You could survive, what is it? I think 3 minutes without oxygen. And these are like ideal scenarios.
Right.
So 3 minutes without oxygen. That might not be quite right, but something like that. Anyway, three minutes without oxygen. So if you're in a situation where you can't breathe, you got to get to a situation where you can breathe. That's your highest priority. So here are the next three options: shelter, food, or water. Which one do you think comes next in the rule of threes?
I would say water.
It's actually shelter. Shelter, wow. You could survive about 3 hours without shelter. Because if you are in a situation where weather is bad, weather goes crazy, it gets super cold, it gets super hot, whatever, that is more likely to kill you than being without water for a period of time. So it's 3 minutes without oxygen, 3 hours without shelter, 3 days without water, 3 weeks without food. Wow. Right? So in terms of people's needs, aside from breathing, housing typically is one of the most primary needs that people have. But anyway.
Yeah, I love that. And I put dreams here because one of my lender clients, he's got a client, does really well, and called him up and said, there's a neighborhood we've been wanting to live in, and there's a house we want. I don't care. I'm going to buy it. And so people are still doing that. And my friend Jeff, one of his realtors, just closed 7 deals last month. And then my buddy Chris, over the last 6 months, he's closed 2 to 4 deals every month. It's still happening.
Right. And you could literally just look at the sales numbers that are happening. Like, until that says 0, like, there are deals happening. The question is, are you stepping in front of them? Are you getting in front of the ones that are going to happen? It's not a matter of if there are deals to be had. It's just, are they being done with you?
Right. Yeah, they're going to be happening. I love that when Gary Keller's book, The Shift, it's not called The Shift, it's called Shift. He says it's not about the market, it's about what you do. And the thing is, we must be in front of these people more than they're getting bombarded by the media and other folks. Like, we need to let them, the average American thinks they're on the phone or a device 5 to 6 hours a day. The latest studies say it's at least 3.5 hours a day. And getting bombarded by basically 1,000 ads per hour, I think is what it is. Like, just boom, 3,500 ads a day. No, not per hour, but just in general, because you also get ads when you're not on your phone. 3,500 ads a day.
Right.
And so the question is, how am I in front of the people that are high LEI in a cool way? How can I be in front of these people? Because one, they're still moving now. But then the biggest opportunity right now, one of my friends in her MLS, there's 3,400 realtors. They're expecting on January 1st, it's going to be back down to 1,100. So they're losing 2/3. And like lenders, they're getting laid off, and in some sectors, half didn't renew last year, and they're expecting another half aren't. So what that means, there's a lot more of these people with a lot less people to service them, which is really cool.
Right. You know what we should do? We should do a very powerful, useful bit of content that feels very clickbaity on how you can make a bunch of your sales off of orphans in the coming market.
Yes, I love that, because there's going to be a lot of SOI orphans for lenders and realtors. I mean,
exactly.
I've had a couple deals I couldn't close because my buddy's sister got a license. And he's like, look, I love you, but I want to be able to enjoy Thanksgiving. And my mom says, I have to work with my sister. I mean, those people are going out, they're not going to be in the business anymore. And
there's a lot of those.
And so this system really well. How do you think this does explaining the old way and the new way of what's happening?
So this lays out the foundation in depth around some of these problems. When is this conversation being had? Does that make sense? Because it might be overkill. It might be a lot more information than people need in order to ultimately make their decision.
Yeah. So the idea is have this conversation up front and kind of get their feedback. And then find what they want to create in the next few years, and then say, hey, can I show you how the realtor waiting list actually does this, actually lets you give 6 referrals a year to your top 20 realtors. And then, because
I wonder if you change it out to being start with what do you want to achieve, right? Like, what are you trying to achieve? And then start asking them questions like, we've been working with people for a while. I found that these questions tend to hit home. Is true or false? Do you believe that it's hard to get realtors to be loyal? Is this something that you believe? It's like, all right, cool. And that might not be the right way to word it, so that you set it up for success, so that when you give the reveal that it can be different. You don't want them to. There's a balance here of you don't want to set them up to defend their reality. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
But there might be something to be said about would you be open to a reality like we figured out a way where this has become not true, right? Would you be interested in hearing how we make that happen and seeing if it's a good fit for you?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? I feel like the basic idea of it's normally hard to get realtors to be loyal. It's normally can't send me any deals. What was the one above this one?
It was when can't get them to speak to me or be loyal.
So won't. Yeah. Okay. So essentially, to me, it's two main myths, with the second one being broken up and clarified. And the two main myths are I can't get realtors to be loyal, and realtors won't or can't send me deals.
Right.
And then say what we've figured out is that this absolutely isn't the case. We are seeing lenders be able to consistently get realtors loyal with this. Here's some of how. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I feel like, because like one of the things that's always stood out to me, I'm not good at this, or I haven't been good at this. When it comes to a sales conversation, the more that I could make the conversation lead with and start with, what do you want? What are your experiences? What has that been like? Would you be open to something working a little bit differently? Like, where it's a lot of get and keep them talking and as little of me presenting as possible.
Right.
That's the ideal to be able to get to a solid outcome. And at least for a sales conversation, I found.
Yeah, and that might be part of it. I was sharing with my cousin, and he does a lot of webinars, and this is a common kind of teaching. And part of it was my cousin, like, he works in the lending business, but he's not a lender. And I'm known as someone as overkill. It's why a realtor waiting list works, right? And so my goal would be to shrink this into hit common ground, 15 minutes. Does this seem right? Did I miss anything?
Yeah, and like, honestly, I think the education portion, if possible, is best done, and how to make sure that this happens can be hard, but there's a reason why it works with a webinar. Does that make sense? Because a webinar, they're showing up for the information. They're showing up for that. But on the sales call itself, like, for those to go, I have typically found as much as possible where it's set up to get them talking rather than being set up for me to talk is where I get my ideal outcome. And again, that's something that I'm not good at. Right. Like, I typically lean toward talking more often than not. It's to my detriment on the sales calls. That's part of why webinars can work well for me, because by the time they get to the end of it, if they've been watching, then they're convinced. But on a live sales call, kind of the difference. So I think you might be best set up if you could figure out, how do you get this to be the content that somebody wants to consume before they get on a sales call with you?
Right.
And then when they get on the sales call with you, that's when you dive into, what are you looking to achieve? What questions do you have about the system that we do? And what can I do to help you move forward? Does that make sense? Where it's 100% that, because I think if you have to convince them on the sales call, it could be done. I think it's just harder. It's harder unless you're doing it in that more interactive framework. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Can I show you my last myth?
Sure.
There's one more. This is probably my favorite. Myth. Realtors won't do any work. Secret. Yeah, this one's true. That's why we do it all for them. So that together, me and you, we can be their hero for the reason they've got a career they never want to quit. And a lender they literally can't stop partnering with.
That's funny. That's funny. This one is 100% true.
Yes. And like I am one. And there's reasons, right? Like they're in the car, even the one. And if you're a really good realtor, you're not a really good data entry person.
Yeah, exactly.
And so the two questions that I've had, and like one, you really can give your top 20 realtors 6 deals a year and really top grade them.
Right.
6 referrals through this. What would be a good way to kind of help them see that, believe that, like see those numbers in their head?
So what would be a good way on the sales call itself?
Yeah. Could it
I'm not
be?
sure. I'm not sure.
Like,
so yeah, running through the math with them in general as a principal, that definitely how you sort of set somebody up to see, hey, here's what it looks like. Here's what it looks like to actually get this done.
Maybe
the thing.
6 deals, like in our average in our market, it's times 400 equals to 400 purchase price. Let's say that they get 1%, or as they say, 100 BPS. That equals for them 24 grand for one agent, which is kind of what I did with Paul. Get to a place where you do this with 20. First, you do 10 agents. You're doing this with. That's 240 grand per year. Kind of nice.
Right.
Do the next 10 agents. Same thing. And so that's kind of cool. Kind of 20 agents, right. 480 grand per year. And then they'll probably just say, how do I get that? Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things strategically, I don't know if you've tried it this way or not. This is part of what Richard's actually had a decent amount of success with in terms of how to do sales calls. And part of it is literally just showing everything that he does. Here you press record, you do this, and then here's all the things that we're going to do with it, right? His basic offer is.
Right.
But like literally just laying out, because like essentially what he's doing is he is showing, his whole presentation conversation is largely just it's like showing somebody, if you go back to that value equation, it's showing them like, you already know you want this end result.
Right.
Right? Like you already know that you want content coming out consistently. Like we're starting from then as a baseline. So then you just have the bottom portion to think through, right? You have the desired outcome is that you want content coming out. But over here, you have the time that's going to take you to be successful, and you have the amount of pain and work that it's going to take you to get there.
Right.
And essentially what he shows is he shows like all of these things that used to be pain on your plate, we're now doing it. So like basically that's what I imagine as people are watching his presentation. It's like they're seeing the outcome is staying the same, but the pain and the time to success is going like shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter and smaller and smaller until it's all holy crap. All I got to do is show up and record, and then all the rest of the stuff is just like it just happens. And like you'd think that it would need to be like that there would have to be more of a trick, but it really has for him been that simple of let me just show you what we do and you tell me if it seems like it's a good fit for you. And in the mix, so like if you were going to do this, like his style for that, here's what your workload looks like. You show up and do this. You have these conversations that are really easy. And not only are they really easy, we give you everything that you need to do to have them, right? And then here's what's going to happen after that. We're going to make sure that video, we're going to do these things to set this up for success. We're going to make sure both you and the realtor have an easy, automatically built database that's going to get emailed as well as followed around online everywhere.
Yeah.
Right. We're going to take the content that you record during these sessions. We're going to make sure that content is being distributed in all the places that it matters, that it's being seen in all the places that it needs to be seen. And so the end result of that is that every week, every month, I forget what your timeline is on the offer for this, but whatever the timeline is, every one of those periods, your end result is that you are being seen as an expert to the people that are most likely already to work with you. And that's happening continually on autopilot without you having to ever do anything more than this aspect. You don't have to follow up with leads. You don't have to cold call. You don't have to get over the fear of rejection, because the only people that you talk to are the ones that are excited to work with you anyway. Right. And talking as the lender, the reality is you don't have to get over the fear of rejection to reach out to the realtors either. Right. Because what you're offering them is something that's an easy yes. And you're going to have drastically more demand for this service than you will have time to even fulfill. So that's where you get the waiting list from, right? Like you move yourself into a position where what you have is more in demand than the supply is able to meet it, which increases your perceived value.
Right.
Anyway, and literally just laying it out and saying, here's what we do. Now, to make this happen, like we've had to custom develop software to make this work for you. We've had to put together a team that's going to distribute, set up all these videos. Right? So we take care of the heavy lifting, and the whole reason why you mentioned some of those aspects is so that you want to get them thinking, if I were to try and replicate this, I'd have to go and code this solution. I'd have to put together the team. I'd have to do this. But you're saying I don't have to.
Yeah,
that sounds good. I want that end result.
If we went through, I feel like if I went through everything, that itself could take hours. Just going through everything we do.
Yeah, so I think you distill it down into just always do it in the basic bullet point form for people, which is doing FABs, feature, advantage, benefit. Right? Here's what I got. Here's why that matters, and here's what it'll do for you. You know, we have seat belts. These are great because they restrain you in the event of a high velocity impact. That's awesome because it makes sure that you're more likely to walk away from a crash alive, right? So feature, advantage, benefit. So we do automatic database building. You know, this is awesome because it makes it so that your list is assembled on autopilot without you having to put a bunch of time into it, which is great. Because this is the foundation that makes it so that we can make sure your content in front of exactly the right people at exactly the right time without you having to lift a finger to make sure that it happens.
Right.
Right. So like every one of them, that's what I do. Just list out what is the tangible thing that we do and why does it ultimately matter toward their end result, and just walk through them, explain it as the process, explain why it matters. Like don't just mention the feature, explain why the feature matters. And then how you do it. And that as a sales call can actually be surprisingly powerful. Just explaining, hey, here's everything we're going to do for you. And like why it matters and how it connects you to what you want. The trick is you want to have people getting on the phone who are some level interested in that offer already, right? Who are some level have enough content and context to be able to say, yeah, that makes sense. I'd like to hear more about how that offer works, how that works.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Part of this, it's almost like a series of calls and what we actually do. And that makes sense though. So what I heard is
part of what you could do is if you wanted to do it as like a consultation kind of call, what you might start with is a survey. What do your numbers currently look like? Right. What sort of tactics are you already trying? Do you take people out for lunch? How often do you take them out for lunch? What is this costing you? Do you leverage swag drops? Are you trying to make phone calls? What kind of results are you generating from those efforts? What amount of time is it taking you to do those efforts? It's like, all right, cool. Okay, so that makes sense. So it looks like with your current plan and your current trajectory, in order to get to your goals, here's what your numbers look like.
Yeah.
Right? Here's what you're looking at. You're looking at you will hit your goals doing the work that you're doing right now in about this amount of time, or you won't be able to hit your goals based on these numbers unless I'm missing something. I found a way that's working pretty well for a lot of my clients that doesn't require any of these, that drastically reduces the cost and makes it so that you should be able to hit these goals based on what I've seen in about the next year or two. Would you like me to show you how that system works and see if it might be a good fit for you? Right? Like,
Yeah.
then that might be how you do that. You do the consultation as, what are you doing currently? How's that working for you? Here's where it's going to get you. If I could show you a way that might get you there quicker, would you be interested in seeing it? And then conversion code talks about doing that as a 2-call close.
Gotcha.
So you get that information on the first call. They say, great, I'm going to take this information. I'm going to put together a plan for you based on this. And then you come back and you say, okay, here's what we got for you. And here's how it works. Here's how it meets with your goals. Here's how it helps solve these problems that you're dealing with, those sorts of things.
Yeah.
And then basically ending up with that. So I'm mixing together a couple of ideas in there, but for a sales call specifically, I found those concepts make sense.
That makes a lot of sense. That's really helpful.
Yeah. I think the content that you put together is really solid. I think I have just always struggled. I have always struggled with having people show up for a sales call and having me educate them.
Right. Yeah.
If that makes sense. Like, I need them to either be showing up for the education and then I give them a solution on how to go further, or I need them to be educated beforehand, and then the sales call is basically just let's clarify this, let's see if it fits your goals, and then go from there.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
What I've just seen, and it sounds pompous to say this, but it's what Paul said. He's been in the business 30 years and he's never had leverage like this. And what I've seen is it just seems unbelievable, which is why I'm getting testimonials.
Right.
And finally, the hunter has become the hunted. But and part of this is when I'm talking with people, I want to get their world and say, hey, this is the way I see it. Is this true? But have that be a real short part of it. We talked. Right. We went through quite a bit.
Right.
It took a little bit longer. But maybe it does need to be a 2-call. Like, one, get their world, and 2, present, to do the kind of the Frank Kern survey up front.
Yeah, like there's some psychological reasons for the 2-call thing, and I forget exactly what all it was about it, but there's something about having that space between the 2 calls where one is getting a feel for who they are, and then the other one is actually offering them a solution. Where, like, having there be space, even if it's literally like same, it makes a difference. I don't know if I have great words for exactly why, but it seems to matter. Not 100% necessary, but it is one of those things that I've seen have a pretty big benefit.
Yeah, I love that. Well, I'm going to stop recording. I feel like this is pretty good. This was a Realtor Waiting List. Who knows? This might be a little behind the scenes how this was created. One day we might release that. And a realtor needs to grow their business.
You might take
holler at Zach, Real Estate Growth Hackers.
There you go. Indeed.
All right. Bye.
Bye.